What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. This is the Deep Corner, presented by the Volleyball League of America, episode 39. I'm Rob St. Clair, and a very special guest joining me today from the East Coast in Massachusetts, the executive director of the International Volleyball Hall of Fame, Mr. George Mulry. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Appreciate it. Happy to be here.
Thanks. Yeah, it was funny. I think I got connected with you guys on Instagram maybe a few weeks ago. Your guy Aaron that runs some of the Hall's socials accounts. He commented on something, I don't even remember where, and he asked the question like, what do you think the turnover rate is between National Players of the Year in college and Volleyball Hall of Famer? So I was like, whoa, that's a great question. And then I'm like, Volleyball Hall of Fame has an Instagram. I should probably follow that, and they might be interested in what the VLA is doing. So here we are.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a great relationship, right? We're all sort of trying to do the same thing, tell the story of volleyball in different ways. It's pretty cool.
That's exactly right. So, first of all, who are you? What's your volleyball background, and how did you get to be the executive director of a thing like the Volleyball Hall of Fame?
Yeah, just dumb luck, honestly. No,
That's kind of how I got where I am too. It happens.
I think that's the story, right? Because we all take these weird windy paths that you don't know where they're going to lead, and this is sort of where we're at right now. So I was a volleyball player in high school. I was actually fortunate to grow up and spend most of my life in Holyoke, the birthplace of volleyball.
Awesome.
And Massachusetts, and especially Western Massachusetts, had a lot of boys volleyball teams, so actual varsity teams. And so in high school, we all knew that Holyoke was the birthplace of volleyball, but I never really thought about playing the sport myself until my junior year of high school, and decided that, I think I want to be on the volleyball team now. And so tried out, got onto the volleyball team, just absolutely loved everything about the sport. It was completely different than what happens in gym class and everywhere, picnics and elsewhere.
You're right about that.
And so I just followed that passion. I went to the University of Massachusetts, Eisenberg School of Management, and played club volleyball at UMass. And I was coaching at the same time back at Holyoke with the boys junior varsity team. And once I got the passion for coaching, that was when I was hooked for good. And so I just knew that I wanted volleyball to be involved in my life in some way, and as often as possible, really. I mean, whether it's coaching, playing, I was an official for a while.
Yeah.
Just loved it all. And I think, I took a slightly different path. I had a sport management degree, but once I graduated, decided that most of the sport management jobs were in Boston or New York and elsewhere if you're going to be on the East Coast. So I opened up a real estate company and did real estate for a while. So I at least put the management part of my degree
to
good use. And that allowed me to continue coaching, stay involved with volleyball, and eventually got me hooked up with the Volleyball Hall of Fame. And so that was where I met a few of the board members. They had just started running some high school tournaments. At that point, I was coaching girls high school volleyball. And, we were involved with that. And I was kind of, helping on the back end a little bit, secure some teams after the tournament got started for a couple years. Got invited to the board of directors, was on that for a year when we got some one-time funding from the FIVB that was used to support an executive director position.
Okay. Very nice.
And so that was cool. We were trying to get a full-time executive director and just really take the Hall of Fame to the next level. And I was fortunate to throw my hat in the ring and be either crazy enough to accept the job or lucky enough. I think it's been a little bit of both, but it's been absolutely amazing. It's a dream job for anyone that has any sort of passion for volleyball. Like, this is it. You're in the weeds. You're right in the history, and it's just so cool to do every single day.
That is so awesome. I can't wait to hear more about like all the cool people you've met and the stuff that you've seen and the things about the game that you've learned. I don't think that nearly enough people even realize that the Volleyball Hall of Fame is a thing. I think that Americans understand the concept of a Hall of Fame. So when, like, obviously, like every sport has its Hall of Fame, and then like when you tell someone there is a Volleyball Hall of Fame, they're like, oh yeah, of course there is. Like, where wouldn't there be? But right. But they don't understand like where it is, why it is where it is, like what it has become from what it used to be. So tell the people, give your like ordinary pitch about what the International Volleyball Hall of Fame is.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I think I'll start with Hall of Fames are pretty uniquely American, and North American maybe. So I think internationally that's already a challenge, is trying to explain what a Hall of Fame is. But The Volleyball Hall of Fame, we are the one Hall of Fame for the entire world. So we cover everything from indoor amateur stuff all the way up to the professionals, the Olympics, the national teams. And so we capture all of that history. We recognize all of those people. And that's really our largest challenge, is trying to figure out kind of how we can best tell the story of volleyball and the best means to do that.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a crazy task for a guy and his staff in Holyoke, Massachusetts to like do the job of an international Hall of Fame justice, trying to reach all the way around the world. So we'll get into a lot about how you guys do that. But I got actually a handful of questions that I wanted to ask you from people that learned that I was interviewing you. They're like, Volleyball Hall of Fame. There are several things that people want to know about how you get inducted to such a thing. So first of all, at what point do you become eligible? Is there a relationship to your playing career like there is in like football or baseball or whatever? And like like playing career, coaching career, if you accept coaches in the hall, like how does that all work timing wise with their careers, first of all?
Yeah, I think so. We have what we'll describe as a loose set of guidelines for now. So typically you should be retired from your highest level of play for 5 years.
Okay.
And so the highest level of play, I think, is potentially up for debate. We'll typically use the Olympics as kind of that level, but I think most people participating on a national team in some way is a pretty darn high level.
Agreed.
The same goes for coaching. I think it gets a little bit more tricky because we do induct leaders, we induct officials, which is just, there's no specific criteria for that. They're not winning any gold medals, so it makes it a bit more challenging. But I think those are the main keys. And anyone in the world can nominate,
okay,
which I think is important. But honestly, what we're going through right now and what the pandemic has allowed us was some time to really look at our process and how the eligibility works. And so we're rewriting all the rules kind of as we speak. We have a Zoom set up in the next couple of weeks, actually, now that I look at the calendar, to really meet with some of our current inductees and kind of run some things by them so that we can really make the process a bit more transparent. We have an international selection committee, but all the voting members of the Hall of Fame are the living inductees.
Okay.
And I think that's pretty unique. So you're getting voted in by your peers. We added in a fan vote element 3 years ago,
okay,
and we're going to continue with that as well. But I think we're trying to really expand who is eligible. We want to kind of finalize and really say for sure, like, this is what the criteria is. If you're an official, if you're a coach, if you're a player, we handle beach volleyball, para volley, in all forms. So it's really a wide range, and there really needs to be representation and votes. Because I think what we run into is, we have so many people inducted from the United States and Brazil and Russia that when we send these ballots out, if you see a name from one of those countries, you're going to vote for
probably going to vote for it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that we keep getting the right people in. We're inducting the right people, but we want to make sure we don't miss anybody, and we want to make sure that it's as open as possible. And I think that's what you're going to see, and that's where it's really exciting for me, is that we're going to bring the volleyball community into the fold and put some committees together and have people have a voice that have not been able to have one in the past.
Well, that's awesome. That's one way of engaging the people into what you're doing, is to give them a voice, is to give them a vote, which is a great idea. And I love that the active living members are the voters, because like there was some drama around the Baseball Hall of Fame's ballots going out last week, and I just can't really get behind the fact that it's just media people, like the writers who vote on the most prestigious like career honor in the game of baseball. Like, that just doesn't quite make sense to me, because they don't really know what it takes, or like what it is to be at that level. So the people that are in the hall deciding who joins them in the hall makes the most sense to me, really.
Yeah, we think that's an important piece, and that's an easy one that I think we can tell the story behind. And so we want to keep part of that, and again, just bring maybe some more voices into the mix that are going to have a bit more information, or specific information based on the category that we're looking to induct.
So categories is a good point. So you talked about, you guys cover indoor, you cover beach, you cover paravolley, you cover refs, or officials, you cover coaches, everything. How do you like normalize the careers or the paths of those people to get to Hall of Fame nomination. Like, I mean, the voters might have their own strategies, but how do you compare those people? How do you vote on like Misty May Trainer, for example, versus like a coach from the Brazilian national team indoor? Like, it's just a very different set of, like, it's two totally different resumes. So how do you compare those people in Hall of Fame, like, voting sense?
Yeah, and I don't know that we have a great answer for that. And I think that's what we're trying to fix, because right now, we limit, there's going to be 5 or 6 names per category, let's say. And so we limit the votes to 2. So you can't vote for more than 2 per category.
Okay.
But we really only want people to vote for 5 or 6 total members. So when we're looking at, 6 or 7 different categories, it's again, I think it's more of, we try to get the right people on the bus and then figure out where they sit later. But again, that's pretty subjective. And
Yeah.
you get to just say, I think they're good. I'm not sure about them. And that's tough. There's really not a great way to compare all these things. But that's where the committees might come into play in our future, 2022 and beyond, where we have this group of just coaches and they say, hey, here's who we think the best coach is. That's our nominee.
Okay.
We're good to go.
I think that's a great way to evolve the whole process to people that really know that category and get them to have the voice for at least nominations, let the voting go from there. I like the get people on the bus and find out where they sit later analogy. Yeah. That's good. And right
there.
Yeah. So I think you kind of already answered this question, but how do you keep the International Volleyball Hall of Fame as the Hall of Fame, not the Hall of Very Good? Because that is sometimes a thing that the other Hall of Fames run into.
Yeah, and I think that's been the most challenging for us, because there are extremely deserving individuals that are very well known, especially in the United States, that just will not have an opportunity to be inducted as a normal Hall of Fame member to our organization. So I think part of the challenge is keeping the class relatively small. Mm-hmm. So we like a number of about 5 to 6 per year at most. I think we could potentially expand that going forward, but with all the volleyball that we have and all the years that volleyball's existed, I mean, we're going into the 126th year of volleyball now.
I don't think enough people know that.
No, and that's going to be part of our promo this year. We can certainly talk about that later. But we only have 146 inductees, and that's it.
Over all that time.
Millions of people that have played volleyball. There's just 146 in the Hall of Fame. And honestly, we've only been international since 1998. So from 1985 to 98, we only inducted members.
Americans, that's right.
And so that's, we're still kind of normalizing some of those numbers as well. And we've had to play some catch up on people that we've, missed from other countries in the past. But it's a really elite group. And I think that's one of the great things for us. But I also, again, think it's one of our challenges, because there's so many deserving people that are going to be in the AVCA Hall of Fame or in the Southern California Volleyball Hall of Fame or the California Beach Volleyball Hall of Fame that are just they don't fit the mold that we have right now for what and who we honor and recognize.
Yeah, that is a crazy task that you guys have of selecting that class each year of people who really had that particular impact on the game at a national or international level, whatever it may be. That would be very interesting to be a fly on the wall in one of those meetings for whatever committees there might be. That is amazing.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, we have a list of about 200 names that, it's kind of a watch list basically. And as people retire, you just sort of say, did they meet the criteria to be eligible? And there's always, we have 25 people on our ballot that's going to be going out very shortly. And every single one of them deserves to be a Hall of Famer. And if you just do the math, if we're only taking 5 or 6 a year, plus any new people that retire and become eligible, it's a challenge to really be inducted.
It really is. So given that level of achievement and what the prestige of Volleyball Hall of Famer means, what is an enshrinement ceremony like? So like what if you're Lloyd Ball, for example, who was my last guest on the show and who we'll talk about in a little bit, like how are you informed that you've been inducted, and then what is a ceremony like in normal times? Like, let's pretend that you can have events with people at them. What does that usually look like?
Yeah, it usually happens a couple different ways. If we have the contact information, It's usually a phone call and an email with some information. But more often than not, especially with our international inductees, we have to reach through their federation.
Mm.
And so they may find out from their federation before we even have a chance to tell them. So we kind of miss a little bit about that element of surprise. But the big key is letting people know and, making sure that they understand what's actually going on.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, so we reach out early on. We typically like to announce the class and reach out to the inductees by April or May. We're moving that a little bit forward as we go through here, but so it gives you about 5 or 6 months to kind of get everything prepared. We'll put together some highlight videos and some photos, displays that get put into the Hall of Fame, and those will stay up for a year in between each induction. And then the big event, obviously, is our induction celebration. And so that's a 3 to 4 day event. People will typically fly in on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. We have an alumni reception that starts on Thursday evening of induction week. They go to Springfield College, and Judd Gymnasium at Springfield College was where volleyball got its name. So it was originally called Net when it was invented. And then Professor Halstead at Springfield College in July of 1896 said, hey, that looks a lot more like volleyball. And so they still have that same building. They have the exact same room where volleyball was demonstrated and got its name. And so we're able to bring the inductees there. You kind of get to see and feel the actual floor that was there. And it's a pretty special place. And it's their official welcome into the Hall of Fame and into induction weekend by other alumni. So we'll have any of our past inductees that are in attendance will come and speak and kind of talk about the special, just how special being in Western Massachusetts is and kind of what they're to expect for the weekend. So we have that reception first. And then the next day on Friday, they'll do some interviews. We have volleyball in perspective interviews. They're about 20-minute discussions where we kind of talk about their careers, things that you're not going to see in the highlight video.
Right.
So it'll be very personal to the inductee. And we'll eventually post those on our website and have them available for people to see. And that evening is the mayor's reception. So they get officially welcomed to the city of Holyoke now. We've done that most recently at the Volleyball Hall of Fame. That was the first time that we did that. Typically, there's a gorgeous mansion in Holyoke that's actually owned by the city of Holyoke.
Oh,
and
cool.
Great event space. And we usually go there. And it's really special to kind of see the Holyoke of yore, I guess, when it was a big boom. It was the paper capital of the world. And there was a lot of money and affluence that went through Holyoke. And, the city has seen some ups and downs. But we like the idea of kind of bringing them to the Hall of Fame for that mayor's reception. And that's where they'll be presented with their rings. So You'll get your class ring when you're there, and you'll get to see your plaque unveiled inside the museum, which is pretty special. And you'll also get to see your inductee exhibit kind of in the museum and how that's going to look for the next year. And then that Saturday is our big gala dinner. That's where we get 300 people all together, and we celebrate the inductees and our award winners with a nice dinner. And we'll play the highlight videos. That's where they'll give their inductee speeches. They'll be presented and kind of cap the weekend off with that. So it's a nice 3-4 days that they're there. And it's very special. I think it's really, to kind of see and look around the old mills and just what Holyoke is, you can really envision how volleyball came about. And it's pretty cool.
That's amazingly powerful. I'm sure it's a dramatic, pull a nice looking curtain off of their plaque to see their themselves enshrined for the first time, and walking in the gym in Springfield where the game that really gave them their livelihood was born is a powerful thing. That is just an awesome set of ceremonies. I'm sure you guys are looking forward to when you can do those for real once again.
Definitely.
So right now, unfortunately, you can't really do those. You can't have very many people in gatherings. We've all had to make some adjustments, the VLA especially, in the age that we're in right now. As more people get vaccinated, hopefully we can get closer and closer to the real volleyball world that we know and love once again. But the organization has done a cool job of kind of embracing that in the last year or so. Like you guys did a virtual Hall of Famer in global pepper thing on your Instagram, which I loved. That was so cool.
Yeah, thank you. It was a fun one.
Yeah. And the virtual tour of the hall that I've seen online as well, it's great. And you already said that it's the pandemic has given you guys time to embrace or to take a real look at the induction process and how you have plenty of time to see what you can change. We had a similar thing where we had really a lot of time to figure out exactly what we wanted to build. So the embracement of the virtual has been a cool thing to see from you guys and us alike, I guess.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I appreciate you saying that. Where, again, we talk a lot about challenges, but there's one full-time staff person. So I'm the executive director, I'm the head custodian, I'm the chief marketing officer. So there's a lot of roles, but we have an exceptional board of directors and we have an exceptional group of volunteers like Aaron, who you mentioned earlier.
Yep.
Kind of stepped up and really done some incredible things with our social media and just the engagement over the last couple of months. And so, yeah, I mean, we're trying to do as much as we possibly can. We constantly look for our value proposition and how we can be relevant. And again, I think it just turns to, how can we best tell the story of our sport and kind of honor the careers of everyone that we recognize within our museum and people that we're going to recognize in the future. And it's not an easy task, but there's certainly some fun things that come along with it. The Around the World Pepper, by far one of my most favorite projects I've worked on since being at this Hall of Fame.
That was so cool.
Yeah, it was so cool. And the inductees were they embraced it. And there was a very quick turnaround on that, where we just said, hey, we're going to do this thing. This was last April or March. It was right when things were kind of hitting. And we just said, hey, this is relevant. It's happening right now. We can do it a bit bigger than everybody else because of our bandwidth.
Yes, you can.
And, we tried to get as many as we can fit in 1 minute and made it work.
Awesome. Yeah, that was a cool project. So tell us about our guy, Lloyd Ball, inducted in 2015. A lot of people now that have watched the show, I've heard from him now twice. He's got his fingerprints all over this league. He's a kind of the fearless leader, one of the figureheads that the whole volleyball world looks up and sees a gold medal around his neck and recognizes pretty quickly. So what was his enshrinement like back in 2015, and just talk to me about Lloyd as a player and where he fits in the landscape of the Hall of Fame, because I think he pretty clearly deserves to be there.
Yeah. I mean, Lloyd's the dude, right? I mean, he's a phenomenal ambassador to the sport. He's just so authentic. And plus he's just a fun guy to have an adult beverage with,
That he is.
But no, I think Lloyd's enshrinement came at a really nice time for the Hall of Fame. We were kind of building up this event. We actually had our dinner in a different location. We had switched locations for that dinner, so we were still kind of learning our new space. And Lloyd kind of helped usher that in. It's just so cool because he's such a family-oriented guy.
Mm-hmm.
So you have Arnie there, and the whole family is there, and it's just, you can see how special it is. But I think just beyond that, I mean, he's just ridiculous at volleyball.
Oh.
We're walking around the Hall of Fame, and I have a picture we had on display. It was Lloyd about 25 feet deep in the court. He had one knee on the ground, and his hands are up there on the ball. And I'm just joking around. And I'm like, hey, you're in system, right? And he's like, you damn right we're in system.
Probably set middle on that play.
That's what I mean. Yeah, he's like, they better be up and ready to go or I'm going to be upset. And I think that's just how it is, just ultra competitive. He's what people want to look up to. And I think that's where I think, just in general, the sport of volleyball just doesn't really do a great job of kind of having those heroes and telling their stories in a way that gets people fired up for them. All these other sports seem to be able to do it.
Right.
And it's just tough. But yeah, I mean, that's just a perfect example of, you could take half his career is enough to be in the Hall of Fame. And he's just gone way above and beyond that. It's pretty cool.
That is very well articulated. He talked, I've gotten to know him over the past several years. Going to college in Indiana, I got to know him in college. I told the story I can't remember when on the show that I got a text someday, my sophomore year of college when I was running my club team. He was like, hey, this is Lloyd Ball. I'm holding a tournament up in Northeast Indiana. I'd love if you brought your Purdue team up to play with us. I'm like, this is who? What did you just say to me? And getting to know him now after working with the league, you're right. He's a down-to-earth family guy. Now his son is playing at Ball State. He played with him for Team Pineapple over the summer very briefly, which was an amazing moment. And still at 48, the competitiveness has not gone away for that guy. He's still going to suit it up this season for us, and every time he gets on the floor, I would never bet against him. He is so special, and you're right. He's a hero that the sport of volleyball deserves, but we've never done as a sport that good of a job at creating and promoting those guys. And Loy's that guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's cool.
He's the man. I love every time we get to talk to him and hang out with him. All right, so I want to get back into volleyball history, even back to the beginning. And I want to just hear from you some milestones that you think were crucial to the growth of the game along the way, because a lot of people listening, myself included, probably don't know a lot of these things. So starting even from the birth of it, 1895, William G. Morgan in Holyoke at the YMCA created this game called Int'l, like you mentioned, and all of the silly rules that it had back then, and then over to Springfield, like you said, and now boom, it's the 5th most popular sport in the entire world. So how did we get to that point? What were some of the big steps along the way, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, I think one cool thing to even mention is, basketball was invented in Springfield by James Naismith just a few years before volleyball was.
Right.
But the really cool thing was that James Naismith is the whole reason that William Morgan ended up at the YMCA training school and ended up within the YMCA to even have the opportunity to invent volleyball.
Oh, okay.
So they had a chance meeting on the football field, and Naismith recruited Morgan to come to Springfield and kind of join his school. And it's just so crazy how one meeting can just, change the course of history, basically.
Wow.
And come up with 2 Olympic sports that are, just invented 10 miles apart from each other. But yeah, I think the YMCA really played the biggest role early on in spreading the game, especially in the early 1900s. They took it to the Philippines and all over the world. And that was where the game started to evolve a bit. When we started to kind of see the spike was invented in the Philippines.
That's right.
Kind of cool. And that's really the first time that the sport saw any sort of aggression. And I think the sport was so passive. And I think that was why it was invented, was because basketball was just too aggressive and violent. And I think that was what made it popular in the beginning, but maybe something that kind of held it back was that it was just always viewed as this passive sport. And I think even as you see, going into the world wars, the military kind of embraced the game, again, as a passive activity for the soldiers, but that really helped spread it throughout the rest of the world, was through the military. And then with the creation of the FIVB in 1947 to kind of formalize all these little federations that were doing their own thing, that was certainly a key milestone in kind of the growth of the game, having actual world championships.
Right. That's huge.
Yeah. Leading into indoor volleyball becoming an Olympic sport in 1964, beach volleyball in 1996. And honestly, I think you're going to see snow volleyball in the not too distant future.
Snow volleyball is awesome.
It is insane. It's so cool.
It's so cool, literally and figuratively. Lloyd, speaking of Lloyd Ball, he was in, I think, whatever the American delegated team was that went over to, I think, Western Russia and played snow volleyball a couple winters ago. The CEV put on a thing like that. That was awesome. And Lloyd and some of his Team Pineapple guys went and played that with USA on their chests. The game is amazing. And could you imagine injecting that into the Winter Olympics? It would be such a fantastic addition.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it instantly embraced.
Right.
It has volleyball just in general has so many cool aspects. All the things that are great about other sports happens in volleyball, where you get like this nice alley-oop dunk in basketball. It's like, that's the spike, and then we're running like a fast middle. We're running the bic. It's like you're running all these crazy fun things. And it's just, there's so many cool things that go with it. And we just need more people to know that.
I have been saying that, I think, every single episode of this show, and ever since I've been starting playing the game, I'm like, man, why is this not the most popular sport of all time? Why does not every single person like live and die by their professional volleyball team that they root for? Because of how amazing it is. Like, it's a question that's come up almost every episode of the show, and I'm glad you said that exact thing. So, if you can put your finger on one like change in the game, maybe since the Olympic era, so 1964, The libero position, I'm sure, is a huge one. Rally scoring, I'm sure, is a huge one. What's the biggest change in the game of volleyball, in your opinion, that's kind of affected how it's been played at every level?
That's a tough question. I mean, I think, gosh, just the physicality of the game.
Right.
I think the use of science and stats to kind of dictate how the game is played just led to these just crazy freak athletes playing volleyball. And they're people that would excel in basketball and football and baseball and all these other sports. But really, when you put them on the volleyball court, it's just incredible athletes doing some really amazing things. And I think that's what's changed the game, is that the players have just continued to get better and better and better. And they hit harder, they spike. It's just, everything is, it's just cool. I get so fired up every time.
Yeah, I know. It's, well, this is, I told Lloyd the exact same thing last episode. This is the platform to get hype about volleyball. This is what we do here. Yeah, man, the size, the speed, we talk about all the time how different it is when you see it in person versus when you see it on TV. And it's fun to watch on TV, but God, in person, that 6'10" dudes hitting the ball 80 miles an hour, getting stuff blocked straight down because they hit it 6 inches too low and got, rejected by a 7'2" guy. Like,
right.
like, come on. Yeah, and the libero position, adding almost a short guy element, but even those guys are 6'2" nowadays. Right. And the plays that they're able to make, adding the back row attack, the things that setters are able to do, like watching Micah Christensen never gets old to me. Watching Lloyd Ball never gets old to me. It's just so easy of a game to get excited about. And now this is something that I think you would have a unique perspective on, and that I'm sure I could talk about for hours and hours. Why isn't it the most popular sport on the planet? Why don't people know all these awesome things about it? What's the barrier preventing volleyball from reaching people, especially in the US? Because I think internationally it's on everybody's radar, but here, where it was invented, for some reason it's just not. And I've never quite figured that out, especially when basketball, a classically like gigantic American sport, like you said, was invented miles down the road and days earlier. Why is that?
I know, that's the $1 million question. I wish I knew the answer to that one. We'd be able to solve a lot of problems. Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know. I mean, it seems like it could just be a branding problem, right? Where, like, okay, people think that volleyball is a typically female sport in the United States, and clearly the girls' high school participation is the highest participated sport, so the data supports that.
Yep.
It's when you watch the game and the Olympics come around every 4 years, and volleyball is one of the top things that everybody watches, and then it goes away and that's it. Nobody wants to talk about it anymore. Unless
that's always right. That's always been weird to me. And actually, I just got sent a link today that is previewing what may come later this week, which is a big multi-$100 million investment in the FIVB from an outside source, which is huge news. And in that, it cited that volleyball was the #1 viewed sport in the Olympics in 2016. So you're right. It's up there. And I don't understand why that doesn't get captured into momentum, in between the 4-year Olympic cycles. And you know what, my league might be in a good position to capture that this summer with the postponement of the Olympics to this year. But I guess that leads to my next question. Is there even a market for professional volleyball here? The sports market at the professional level is so crowded. There's a lot going on. The big 4 professional sports, football, hockey, baseball, basketball, are so big and they're everywhere. For the non-volleyball player, somebody who didn't grow up playing or watching volleyball, do they even want to watch volleyball? Like, are they gonna ever want to watch a VLA match, do you think?
I know. I mean, I hope they do. I really hope they do. You guys are putting out a phenomenal product.
Thank you.
I think there's a lot of smaller professional sports leagues out right now in the United States, right? Yeah, lacrosse is always growing. Soccer has done their thing for a while. I think one of the challenges with volleyball on TV and even in person to an extent, especially for non-volleyball people, is when you watch the audience and their reaction, it's to these long rallies.
Right.
And that's what they like to see. And that's the exact opposite of what happens, especially
in the men's game.
Volleyball. And again, and even those are not great for TV, right? Because they're going to end with like somebody hitting the ball into the net, or like, something freak happens. But it's those long rallies where everyone's up on the edge of their seat, and that's what you want. And I don't know how we can capture that more, but I think that that's one of the keys, is getting people a little bit more fired up. And then the other side of it is just wherever the money is, that's where the leagues are going to be. So if there's a product that sponsors want to get behind or people want to invest in, they're going to make that grow somehow.
That's
because
right.
It's going to be in everybody's face all the time, constantly. And I'd really love for volleyball to be that product. So hopefully you guys are able to get this thing figured out, since most other people have not done a great job yet.
It's a huge task, and you have a very similar task, but I think you and I both share the belief that it can be done. Otherwise, I don't think we would be where we are right now.
Right.
You especially being fully employed and having the pretty singular task, at least as a full-time employee, of enshrining all the greatest players and people to ever do it in the sport. So you made a great point about the business aspect of it, and you know this. You started a real estate company to stay around the game of volleyball. The where the money is, the people will go, and nobody does professional sports better than the United States. So there are so many things that we as a league right now, as the VLA, have the options to do because we're new. We can kind of build this thing however we want to build it. And so there are models that exist for professional volleyball in Europe and all over the world. And then there are models for American sports leagues for non-volleyball here. So what in your head, like picture 15 years down the road when we're putting 10,000 people in every volleyball match to sit and watch it, what do you think what do you picture being similar to how Europe does volleyball and how like volleyball is done internationally? And what do you think is going to be done in a more American sort of way? Because there's definitely a style difference there.
Yeah. I wish I knew that, or could even picture that. That's a tough one. Yeah, I don't even know. I picture the day when a volleyball player, a young volleyball player, says, I can't wait to be in the Hall of Fame. I think when we can get to a point like that, and that really has nothing to do with my organization, that's just our sport in general.
Right.
You talk to any basketball player and they're like, I want to be like Kobe, or I want to be like this. I want to be in the Hall of Fame. I want to be a Hall of Famer. Nobody says that about volleyball, just in general. And I think if we can get into that aspect of we want to be the best and we want to kind of define what that echelon is, I think that might be one way that we're able to get over the hump.
That is a great point.
Yeah, I think that's kind of having these heroes of our game and figuring out, how to just bring their stories to light. And again, has really, certainly the Hall of Fame can help do that, but it's through the professional leagues that if we can get personalities like you have Lloyd Ball, and there's some tremendous people involved with the VLA that are known in the volleyball world, and just keep building those up. I don't know. I mean, I still struggle to kind of see what it would look like, though.
Yeah. It's hard to picture.
It would look just like, the big four or the big five here. And it's just so crazy, though.
Yeah, it's a heck of a task, like we said. But like you made a great point again about having heroes of the game in Europe. In the countries where volleyball is massive, they have those. In Poland, where volleyball is the number one sport, they have those. Mariusz Flazwy was a hero, an absolute hero. Right now, the kids that are growing up watching Bartosz Kurek win MVP of the World Championships, that guy is a hero. All of them, they look up to, they want to be those guys. And people in other sports here in the U.S., they have that same exact thing. So you're right. I think defining that echelon, that truly elite, like timeless, like eternal sort of career as a goal to be aspired towards is a huge opportunity for the game of volleyball. And that's where I think your organization and mine will really get along here in the short and long-term future. And another thing, Lloyd made this point on the last episode I had, which was volleyball. Like volleyball is big of a participant sport as it is here. isn't really a spectator sport as much. For some reason, it's very, very difficult to capture the people that want to play a tournament and make those same people want to sit down and watch the national team. And that's something that's something I've never understood at all. Like they love the game. Clearly, they spend all their weekends playing. I know hundreds of people here in the Midwest. That's all they do every weekend in the summer is they just play. But then when the national team shows up in Chicago, which they do most summers, the crowd is 95% European.
Right. Yeah, and you're only getting 5,000 people.
Right.
And it's tough. And meanwhile, you have 2014 or whatever it was over in Poland, 62,000 people for the FIVB World Championship. It's just crazy. It's
stunning numbers.
Yeah. It's insane. I mean, I've been out to Hoffman Estates, and it's awesome. Again, like you said, you get to see the national team. They're personable. They're up close.
Right.
The athlete availability is unlike any other sport. And beach volleyball's always done a great job with that.
Yeah,
and
they have.
Athletes accessible, and we've gone that way with the indoor game as well. But yeah, just getting people out there. I mean, it's hard to give tickets away.
So yeah, sometimes it really is. You made another really good point about telling storylines and getting players' personalities out there. That's something that the game of volleyball, even internationally, has never done well. I think it's been all on-court performance, what that player is able to do physically, and what like his highlight reel plays and what he's wearing around his neck some of the time. But in like traditional American sports media, we're really used to knowing the players personally. We're used to knowing their stories, and that's something that I've tried to be able to do with this show with all the guys I've had on throughout the last year or so, which is great. But that is another opportunity that your organization and mine both have. And I think it's such an awesome thing that you guys have already done, is taken people that deserve to be at the level where they have Hall of Famer on their resume and tell in detail exactly how they got there. And all the videos of your inductees are on the internet. Like, they're all on your YouTube channel. A lot of them are on Instagram. Like, I went through and watched Lloyd's recently, and it did a phenomenal job of talking through his career, how he was the youngest player ever to suit up for the national team, a little bit about his club career, how important winning the gold medal in 2008 was to him, and all the other players as well. So I think everybody really needs to know that stuff. People need to become volleyball historians, like they're like casual football and basketball historians in the United States. It's just how it should be.
Yeah, that's so true. I couldn't have said that better, to be honest. That was so good. I'm going to use that, by the way.
Please, all yours.
I like that.
All right, so before we get you out of here, I want to ask two kind of things. So one, pandemic has hit everybody hard. It's hit the game of volleyball pretty hard. But with things ever so slightly starting to come back to normal, volleyball is being played around the world. Champions League is happening in Europe right now. The pros are playing overseas, and juniors in the U.S. are just starting to be able to get going again. From your perspective there in Massachusetts, what's the state of the game at right now? How has the volleyball world handled the pandemic, and what's going to get us back to normal other than a vaccine, I suppose?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think the game in general, I mean, especially in the United States, was really strong going into the pandemic.
Agreed.
I think there's still a lot of momentum that we're able to carry through that. And I think a lot of clubs in particular did a great job kind of keeping their players engaged with virtual training and just ways to keep people kind of within volleyball some way. So I think we're not going to lose all that momentum, especially having an Olympics, if we're able to pull that off the way that they expect.
Yes.
There's always that little Olympic bump that we get. So I think it's in a good place. I know that some of the professional leagues a couple of years ago were really struggling, and it seems like a lot of them have kind of turned the corners and are able to just continue to put some good products together. So I think the state of the game overall is really strong. Participation numbers are up. And I think, again, with all the podcasts and blogs and everything else that's going on, we're doing a much better job of making volleyball available, even to our own people.
Agreed.
Let alone just the casual person, but just within our own community, it's it's been awesome.
Totally agreed. Yeah, the pandemic has given people excuses to, if they want to expose or like experience volleyball, it's going to have to be like virtual content. So a lot of content creation has come from all this. And you made a point about volleyball being accessible. It's never been more accessible than it is right now. You can watch Eric Shoji play 12 hours across the world in Siberia for free on YouTube when the Russian league plays their matches, and you can find us playing our matches in the exact same spot. It's the state of digital media right now is very volleyball friendly, to be honest, and there are a lot of people doing a really good job of capturing that and generating excitement about the game, yourselves included. The virtual pepper thing with all the Hall of Famers was a home run, like, social media post. It was so awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. And again, it was a fun one. I hope that we're able to do more things like that. Again, we're guilty of it as well. We just don't engage our inductees enough to get them out there. And certainly this was one of the things that came out of that was, just taking a deep look at everything that we do as an organization and just trying to come out better at the other side of it.
So what is next for the International Volleyball Hall of Fame? What's on the calendar for you guys? I mean, like you said, you're getting ballots out. You're doing all sorts of committee work, looking at things. Maybe by the end of the year, we get another induction ceremony. But what's on your calendar the next couple months, George?
Yeah, I think there's some pretty cool things on the calendar. Namely, we have volleyball was invented in 1895. So 2020, December of 2020, was the 125th anniversary of our sport.
Big number.
2020 was basically a throwaway year, so we didn't even bring it up. So now we're going to celebrate the 126th anniversary of volleyball, and really put that into all of our programming throughout the rest of the year, whether it's in person or digital. So we want to go all the way back to the beginning and just tell the story and all the little stories that go along with volleyball, all the pivot points, all kind of the benchmarks that happened. So we're going to do some artifacts. We'll kind of highlight some artifacts that we have and kind of take that little video tour that we did that was just kind of a brief overview of the hall, really put that together and dive deeper into some of the artifacts and some online exhibits. I think that the digital museum is going to be the way to go going forward. I mean, very few people are traveling to Holyoke, Massachusetts to come walk through a museum for volleyball. But if we put that online and make that accessible, I think that's going to be a great thing for everyone. And it's certainly a win for our organization.
True.
Getting exposed to more people. So we want to tie in a membership program, which is something we haven't done in probably the last 15 or 16 years.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, and just come up with some benefits. We've been really fortunate to have a lot of people that want to support the Hall of Fame and have supported the Hall of Fame. And the membership is another way for us to kind of add some benefits to people that were kind of giving us donations already and really contributing to the livelihood of the museum and the health of the organization. So I think we're looking to kind of beef that up at different levels. And so that's going to be live in the coming weeks as well. We'll have a membership drive. And I think one unique thing that's going to happen is we were renovating our museum right when the pandemic hit. And so one of the projects one of the projects we were not able to get to was transitioning our inductee plaques to new plaques. So we have all these 146 old original inductee plaques that are actually going to be up for auction later on. And so if you're someone that really likes Karch Karai, it's like, here's a chance to win his actual plaque of his induction. Might have a little autograph on there, maybe a personal note. It's like, there's some really cool memorabilia and stuff that, we kind of want to have out in the volleyball community that is not, we don't want it to just sit in our archive for you and not do anything. So there's some really interesting things that we've been working on, some events that we do, some random things. We did a nationwide charity ride and run last year that we're going to carry on this year. It's like motorcycles and volleyball, right? Who knew? There's some really cool things. I think those are some of the big ones. We're really fingers crossed that we're able to get some sort of induction off. I mean, we held off on a virtual induction last year. It just through some conversations with our current inductees and talking about what the induction means to them and being in Holyoke. And they all had the same feedback and just said, if it was me being inducted, I wouldn't really want the virtual event unless there was one way that you could make it really special. And, we couldn't find a way to do that last year. So it might be the case this year, maybe with some live interactions going on, but we'd love to have people in person and really have them experience what it's like to be in Holyoke.
That's awesome. That membership drive, I'll be first in line whenever that goes live, hopefully. And the plaque thing is one of the best ideas ever. I'm sure there'll be some Lloyd Ball fans listening to this show who might be putting their names in the hat for that plaque whenever it goes up to auction. That's such great ideas. Everybody listening to this absolutely needs to go follow the Hall on social media. You're at VB Hall of Fame on Instagram. You have a YouTube channel where all the induction videos are, like I said. The website is there. All of the updates that George just talked about that are going to be huge for the rest of this year and whenever the next induction ceremony is, you got to follow along with that stuff. It's crazy. If you like volleyball, if you like professional volleyball, why would you not follow the Volleyball Hall of Fame? No brainer, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Awesome. George, thank you so much, man, for being a part of the show. I'm really excited to make the connection with your organization, and I look forward to all the cool stuff that you and I and the VLA are going to do down the road. So thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, Rob, thank you so much. You guys keep doing what you're doing. It's been awesome to watch everything and just see it grow over the last year.
Thank you. Thanks very much. All the listeners, stay tuned next week. Big show coming. We got a lot more VLA 2021 regular season to get to and talk about. So we'll give you more about what to expect on the calendar in that case. And until then, follow us everywhere. Follow the Hall everywhere. And we will see you all next time.